Issues were raised. One was cargo preference. The bank's charter does not specifically mandate the U.S. flag vessels in connection with EXIM. That jurisdiction, Transportation Infrastructure Committee, is not our jurisdiction. I've talked to Chairman Micah regarding this issue, so it's not something we would debate nor discuss in this committee because we have no purview over that issue. It's a separate committee altogether. But you brought some great issues up. You said that EXIM's the least competitive, or we are, with our global competitors. You talked about regulatory restrictions that are placed over your requirements that you have to comply with them. And you talked about raising the lending authority from $100 billion to $200, and content was another concern. Now, I guess, Mike, one question I have was on the lending authority. They have authority for $100 billion, but they're only at about $75 billion right now. So there's an additional $25 billion in lending authority available for them to use. The other content requirement is we require 15% not to exceed in foreign involvement. What changes would you like to see made in the content, for example? For example, if that was modified in some fashion, would it change the way you're doing business as it applies to EXIM? Would you then modify the structure of your product where it did include a greater foreign content if we restructured that in some fashion?
Mr. Chairman, I guess one way to think about the content issue is how does it currently hurt us? Okay, how does it currently hurt American jobs? And I think it hurts us in probably three ways, right? So the first is there's some products that we manufacture that simply by the nature of the way the inputs come in, we can't get up to that threshold where it may be 65, 68% U.S. content. And as a result of that, EXIM financing, complete financing is just not available to us. So we will not even apply in our
But it wouldn't change your normal product that had 85%. It wouldn't change that matrix for us, would it?
No, on that point, no. But the second point to be made, I think, is by virtue of having a very high U.S. content requirement, much higher than our foreign competitors, for instance, they are able to both produce goods at they're able to be more efficient in terms of how they manufacture the goods. And then the other issue is, remember, they're able to get full financing. Take the UK, for example. 25%, let's say, U.S. content. They were able to get 85% financing for that. If we were to manufacture something with 60, 68%, we'd only be able to get up to 68% financing on that. So there is a cost difference, there's a financing difference, there's a pricing difference, and there's an availability difference. To get to your point about what would we recommend, I think what we'd recommend first and foremost is that the U.S. content requirement be reduced to the OECD average, which at the moment, the next highest to the United States is 50%, and many are below that. So
by us changing the standards, it wouldn't put you in a position where you would lower your percentage automatically.
No. To the contrary, I think what it would allow us to do is seek export financing from the United States, be more competitive, be able to compete abroad, and retain the production out of the United States. Right now, to be competitive, we're having to manufacture and seek export financing from other institutions around the world. So, for instance, we could export. There's a wind turbine opportunity, let's say, to sell to Kenya. We can export from two places. We can export out of the United States, out of our Greenville, South Carolina facility, or we can export out of Germany and utilize German export finance.
So if we changed them, you think it would increase American jobs?
I can tell you it would increase American jobs.
Mr. Scherer, how would you apply that to Boeing?
Boeing believes that the content requirement of 85% is too high. We believe that we could probably live with a number in the 70% range, probably, as we currently produce our airplanes. But to Karan's point, he's right. To the extent that we have increases in foreign content, we've got to go outside. We've got to obtain co-financing from other export credit agencies to ensure that we can, fill the gap. But again, this is a competitive world that we're in. We've got, oftentimes in order to be able to sell airplanes, we're required to make offset requirements. We've got cases where we just can't get to that 85% number. Having said that, 82% of all the jobs and our procurement is here in the United States. But we've got some aircraft that are below the 85, and it's kind of an awkward situation that we have with our customers who, for example, are acquiring Boeing 737 aircraft, which maybe has an 82% content, and we say, sorry, we can only give you 82%, not 85, but when they buy their Airbus airplane, which has, frankly, a lot of U.S. content in it, they can still get 85% financing for
So
this
it's putting
product.
you at a disadvantage with your competitor.
It's putting us at a disadvantage, yes.
Mr. Eichert, I'd like to hear what the small guy you said you are has to opinion on that.
We have a unique situation. I mean, it impacts us also. Now, there's a workaround, if you will, in our situation. Most everything that we have is U.S. content and materials in our aircraft, except for the engine. The engine comes out of Canada. Luckily, XM and EDC have a co-finance agreement that allows us. We process through XM. XM sends it on to EDC, and EDC picks up their part of the coverage.
So you have an out, basically.
Sir?
You have an out that they don't.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir. We have an out.
If it wasn't for that, how would it impact you?
If I did not have the out, it would impact us dramatically. We couldn't use XM financing because
That would have a dramatic impact on your business personally.
that engine runs about 35 to 40% of our value. So I couldn't access XM without the co-finance agreement.
Mr. Law, do you have a comment on that? Okay, I've gone over my time. Mrs. McCarthy, recognize